If you found some poison ivy on the golf course, you know where that golf ball was.
Yes, sir.
Not where it should have been.
No, sir.
White Widow Sports, welcome back. I am Brad, joined as always by Chris and Brian. We got a Sweet 16 episode, guys. We have made it. I don't know if that's really a true milestone, but we're here nonetheless. We're keeping count, and not just keeping count of the podcast, but kind of an exciting update. We're at 93 subscribers, so getting very, very close to that number 100 that we've been looking for. Obviously, we want to thank anybody that has already subscribed to the channel. We appreciate every single one of you, and we're really close to our goal. So if you haven't subscribed yet, you're watching this, please go ahead and do us a favor. Hit that button for us. We'd really appreciate it. We are getting a lot of views on our stuff. Chris has started a new series of short videos that have been doing well so far. That's pretty exciting for us. We've actually seen our subscriber count jump as a result of that. So we're going to keep that going. We'll have an update on that at some point in this video. But one thing, amongst our 40,000 views that we've already amassed on this channel, we were kind of looking into the analytics because YouTube does give us a lot of, just options to look at certain things. And a number that really surprised me was of our watch time on our videos, 83.7% since we started this channel have come from people not subscribed. Only 16.3% come from our subscribers. So whereas we do appreciate our subscribers, I do want to say if you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? You're obviously liking the content. You want to hear us talk about sports. So it's a couple of quick clicks on your end to do that. But guys, welcome in. How did your week go? Talk to the people.
Good stuff, man. To see us staring down 100, and I know we'll get there probably by the next time we meet up like this is kind of surreal because we really did struggle through 20 to 30 for a while there. But now we've been growing pretty steadily with each new video, except for that one guy who unsubscribed on Abilene Christian. Where's the beef, man? But we've already made up for that. No hard feelings. So yeah, hope to be popping a little bit of bubbly here on the next one.
Absolutely. Pretty good week, other than I ended up in some poison ivy. I believe I found it on the golf course, but other than dealing with that, it's been a pretty good week. I'd definitely like to see the growth on the channel. That's all positive news. So definitely want to keep it growing, and you guys hit the subscribe button for us.
If you found some poison ivy on the golf course, you know where that golf ball was.
Yes, sir.
Not where it should have been.
No, sir.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about the only person that likes getting into poison ivy is Batman, but I don't know if we want to take it there tonight. So I'll digress from that one.
There we go.
Sure.
We talked about it on our last podcast right there at the very end, just kind of as an Easter egg. I do want to start off this podcast just letting you guys know we are planning on doing the first ever, probably an annual thing, White Widow Fantasy Football League. Drop a comment down below, get in touch with one of us. We pay attention to the socials and stuff like that. If you have interest in playing fantasy with us, let us know in the comments or obviously kind of get in touch with us any way that you can, and we'll figure out how many people want to play, and we'll figure out the league and the settings and all that stuff. Any suggestions that y'all have for platforms or settings or anything like that, obviously we want to have a good time. So let us know in the comments below if you want to play fantasy. But Chris, what do you want to talk about first today?
Oh, let's
put you on the spot.
Let's make some enemies north of the border first. Our Stanley Cup Finals is set. We have the Oilers versus the Panthers. I'm cheering for the Panthers, and I've said it a few times, and maybe I need to clip it out finally this time to get you guys a little angry. Cheering for the Panthers. I don't want you Canadian people getting the cup. You've been so mad about not having it for 30-something years. You're going to be so mad when it doesn't happen again, and I'm all for it. I am just a patriot here. But no, seriously, I'm near Florida. The Ghost Pirates back here are an affiliate of the Panthers. So, I mean, I think I'm supposed to cheer for them anyway. So, yeah, there we go.
I actually did not know that the Ghost Pirates were affiliated with the Panthers. As a general rule, being an Atlanta Falcons fan, I don't cheer for teams called the Panthers. I don't pull for Florida teams very often. So it does seem kind of foreign to say the Florida Panthers are who I'm pulling for. But when it comes to USA versus Canada, you got to know where we lie on that one.
Yeah, it's brand new anyway, so not common knowledge.
Right.
That's all I had for that. Just Team USA or Go USA.
That's right. That's right. And then past that, I know kind of going into basketball, the NBA Finals are getting close to shaping up. We've got the Thunder have already clinched their spot in there. They look like they are just the dominant team this year. Does not look like anybody's going to be able to stop them. I know you and I talked about that a couple of nights ago that, the other series is pretty much just seeing who's going to lose to Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
But kind of just as a general note, have these playoffs gone the way that you kind of thought they would? I know we've had some conversations about Cleveland, and I put the Cleveland jersey on just so they know we don't hate them. But just kind of as in a general rule, what do you think about the playoffs and how they've unfolded? Have you been surprised by anything? Or
Well, I mean, I think it was just last year or the year before we saw an 8 seed Miami in the in the finals in general, and so that was surprising. When you've got like, what do we got? 3 and 4 seeds battling it out, and then a 1 seed over on the other side. Should we really be surprised that a 68 win team like has dominated their way to the Western championship? No, 66, 68, I forget. But I guess maybe I expected the Cavs to go a little further and kind of be the competition there. But no, they just look the Thunder just look so great on every level that I just can't see them. I can't see anyone really threatening them. Pacers, I assume at this point, but I can't count out the Knicks yet. Um, I think the Knicks could probably give them a little more trouble down low in the paint, but I still don't think that's enough. So, yeah, kind of like college football. We're kind of just sitting here waiting to see one team we pretty much think is going to take care of business. And if that happens, I'm always a big fan of a team winning their first championship. And no, you don't get to claim the Supersonics championship like some of you guys do. Hawks fan here, I don't claim the St. Louis championship, so we're still looking for our first one. If OKC can get their first one, always a decently feel good story as long as it's not a team you hate.
yeah, and I think it would be really cool too. I saw a thing that was talking about just the season they've had, and if you look at SGA specifically, it could be one of the best seasons for an individual in basketball history. You look at the number of wins they have as a team. Obviously, they've already won their conference. They're going to the finals, won the MVP. Now could potentially win a championship, bringing that first championship to the team, like what you said, and then also possibly a Finals MVP. I mean, just one of those decorated best of all time seasons. He's been good. I mean, he signed a 5-year contract a couple years ago, and at the time they weren't really a great franchise. They weren't doing too well, and a lot of people question like, "Hey, why didn't you go to another team and try to compete?" He said, "I knew what I signed up for. We're not going to be losers for very long, and now here they are in the finals." So he certainly seemed to call his shot, Babe Ruth style, and they're paying dividends from it. So
Can't hate a guy like that.
And then over on the WNBA side, obviously the big news is we've got a Caitlin Clark injury, and I kind of wanted to talk about the ramifications of that. Obviously, when you have one of the brightest young stars of the game, no matter what you want to say about her and a lot of the news that surrounds her, obviously it's bad for the game in general. But I mean, I guess you could argue to say that this is the single biggest impact of a player to be felt across the league. If you look about the revenue that she generates, the attention that she brings to the sport, viewership, ticket sales, merchandise, and all that stuff. I mean, Caitlin Clark getting hurt. Granted, I know it's only a 2-week injury, but that's kind of a worst case scenario for the WNBA, don't you think?
Yeah, I actually think what you said is an understatement. I think that she may be the biggest draw that the league has ever had, and it's like close to 40 years. So yeah, just a huge thing, and yeah, it's just really bad for the sport. And I know the sport's still not huge, but it grew a lot with just the thought of her coming into the league. Now that she's in the league, yeah, just I know Dave Portnoy over at Barstool's a huge fan. Gets on, makes a lot of videos about her, and I guess I'll put it on the flip side. In a lot of this rise to fame and this popularity, we've had a supervillain created, and
You're not talking about
she's
Me Bound, are you?
she's not helping herself any. She looks like she'll come on and maybe say, "Hey, just trying to do my thing, just doing thing," but she comes across as arrogant, kind of dumb, kind of, and then she goes out and misses 5 shots in a row, gets some rebounds, and then she's like, "Look at my rebound numbers." It's like, but on the other hand, is having this supervillain actually good for the sport too? That's the question I want to bounce back at you.
But it's kind of one of those things that I think the answer would be yes if you actually saw what she says as a fact, if it was actually true. If people were actually tuning in to see her games, like if you said the Chicago Sky had like the second highest viewership in the league behind the Fever, then that would basically give credence to that. That yes, people are tuning in to see Angel Reese struggle the way that she has because she's got the absolute bottom plus minus of anybody in the WNBA. She hurts her team when she's on the court. Those rebounds aren't doing any good because she's just throwing them back up for another miss and another rebound. It's not turning into assists. It's not turning into second chance points. At this point, it's not turning into seventh chance points. So it's not really doing the team any good. I know they just picked up their first win yesterday, but they got it off of a 1-4 Sparks team. Or I'm sorry, Dallas Wings team. And I think that was Paige Becker's got hurt. She's in the concussion protocol. I don't know how much of I didn't watch the game, obviously, but nobody else did either. It's kind of our point.
No.
But to go back to your question, like, yeah, they got their first win. It took them well. They started off 0-4. Now they're 1-4. So congratulations to them. Cardoso had her best game of her young career as well. And maybe that just goes to show you that Angel Reese is not the answer to Sky victories. It's going to take other teams having very poor games and having other players stepping up and actually playing at a professional level because Reese is not the savior. The only thing that she does is draw attention to herself and not in a positive way. So I don't think we're at a point where it helps the sport yet because we've talked about this before. When you look at Trae Young in Atlanta, he likes playing the villain. He likes, being that guy that's, drawing attention to yourself and taunting fans and things of that nature. But he's backing up that arrogance with points and with plays and with wins in Atlanta. And you're not seeing that in Angel Reese's game at this point. So unless she turns into a higher quality player, it's not actually good for anybody. It's not good for the league. It's just every game is another opportunity to prove why that rivalry that everybody talks about is so one-sided.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see where it goes from here.
And Brian, I just kind of wanted to bring you into it. I know you're not a big basketball fan. You've made that very obvious, but just from a pure outsider's perspective, I know there's not really anything that's going to get you to watch basketball, not one person, not one player, not one team or game or anything like that. But just how does it reach you, this WNBA and all the stories that come out from it recently?
I do think Caitlin Clark's a great player for sure. I do think you need rivalries. You see it, I talked about it several episodes ago about them taking the redneck out of NASCAR. You look at the things like Dale Earnhardt Sr., rest in peace, but people loved to hate him because of the way he drove. So you either really, really loved him or you really, really hated him, but he was great for the sport. And you really saw that NASCAR declined when he passed away. I believe it is 2001. You really saw that. It took a big hit, but he was that rival. You see a little bit of it with Kyle Busch. People love to hate that man. Jeff Gordon loved to hate him. So I think rivalries are good for sports. But yeah, women's basketball, I just don't know that there's ever going to be that big draw. You're not, you can kind of create the drama, but then do people just blow it off as a woman drama kind of thing? And it makes you turn off even more than you already might have been. So I don't see why they're letting her do that. I would say protect your greatest asset, which is obviously Caitlin Clark. That is the WNBA's biggest draw. So I don't know. I think you protect it and you tell Angel Reese kind of you need to either put up or shut up.
Well, I mean, I'll throw this at you guys. What is Alabama's top rival, would you say, in any given sport? Call it college football. Who is Alabama's biggest rival?
I guess Auburn.
Yeah,
Auburn makes sense. You could say Georgia is fine. I noticed you didn't say Alabama State. That's another school in the same state. Rivalries aren't built on uneven competition. It's built on peers. And so when you talk about who's LeBron James's rival, the first name that a lot of people are going to bring up is Steph Curry, because you think about the Warriors and the Cavs and the Warriors and the Lakers and the different battles that you see. It feels like a clash of titans. Caitlin Clark is the titan of the WNBA. There's no other way around it. The stats speak for themselves. The impact speaks for itself. And we are waiting on another titan to show up that can rival Caitlin Clark. Maybe that's Paige Beckers. Maybe we have to wait another year and see if it's Juju Watkins from USC. Obviously we hope that she gets well soon from her injury, bounces back, and is the same caliber of player that we know her to be. Maybe she gets to the league and has the same kind of impact. Caitlin Clark is looking for a rival, and as much as the rage bait narrative that you see around everything going on in the WNBA, it's just becoming abundantly clear game after game, week by week, that Angel Reese is not that rival for Caitlin Clark. And we're still waiting to see who that's going to be. And then I think that's going to be the point where if somebody steps up, backs up their game, and starts going toe-to-toe with Caitlin Clark on the level that she plays at, that person can play the villain, and you'll see that impact that you're looking for. I just think that we haven't seen that player yet because there's not anybody that's at that level yet.
True enough.
I agree.
So I know we talked about it a little while ago before we started recording, but Brian, I think you wanted to touch on golf a little bit and kind of recent happenings and future, tournaments and all that's coming up. So what did you have in the world of golf?
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot. I think, the people that care about golf, you obviously know Scotty Scheffler kind of dominated the PGA Championship. We talked about it a little bit on our last podcast. Great for him. I love to see him come back. He's such a good golfer, and he's kind of had a bit of an off year to start off this year, but obviously back in true form now. Of course, I'm going to pull for my favorites: Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth,
Bryson
but
DeChambeau.
they've just kind of been off for a little bit. So hopefully they'll, like Scheffler, they'll bounce back and have a good week. I did watch a video that was a really, really good video it was put on by Good. They actually met the true GOAT of golf, or one of the true GOATs. Obviously, Tiger Woods is going to be, or is a GOAT. Everybody knows that name, but they got to talk with Jack Nicklaus, and it really was a really good video. It wasn't just about golf. It was, them just asking him questions about life in general. And, like talking to your grandfather, he's just kind of full of that knowledge and that old wisdom. And so they did a really, really good job with that. Obviously, he's got his memorial tournament going on this week, super hard golf course. There's players that love it. There's players that hate it. But I think it's for a good cause. I think it's called the Yellow Shirt. So if you got any interested in that, go check that out. It's a good video and a good cause as well. So want to wish everybody, good luck in that tournament this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got Brian's 2 out of the 3 checklist for his weekly podcast. He got to talk about redneck coming out of sports. Gave us our golf update. Let's just go ahead and nail out the trifecta real quick. Brian, has Aaron Rodgers signed in the NFL yet?
As far as I know, no. But I'd rather talk about Cam Skatteboo than Aaron Rodgers any week. So.
Yeah, I don't know if Don is watching. People that watched our first round of the draft live stream, Don was one of the main ones commenting. He is a New York Giants fan who really believes in Tyrone Tracy, who's the incumbent running back, who was a 5th-round pick last year, converted wide receiver. And he has made it clear to my wife that I am getting on his nerves because I have made it a purpose to send him nothing but Cam Skatteboo propaganda. Anything I see about Cam performing well in OTAs, anybody that thinks that he's taking over that backfield very soon, just anything, any kind of positive propaganda, about Cam, I'm sending it directly to Don because there is a new starting running back for the Giants. His name is Cam Skatteboo, friend of the podcast, and I'm going to keep supporting him until the very end. And I'm waiting for that first official depth chart that lists him as RB1. It's going to be tattooed across my chest. Maybe not. It's definitely being sent to Don either way, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can talk about Cam anytime.
Absolutely. Which beats out Aaron Rodgers any day of the week. Go retire, my guy. Do y'all want to touch on the MLB? I know there's not a lot of exciting news. I know Acuna Jr. came back for the Braves. Has done really well since he came back. I caught a couple of games this past week. They're just so hit or miss to watch. I mean, they either look smoking hot like they are the team, or they are just not there all the way around. So, and I guess that's just baseball in general. Looks like they're losing right now 5-1 to the Red Sox. So I know we don't really do breaking news on this podcast, but just something I'm watching on another tab that that's just how the Braves are. It's up and down all year with them, and it almost makes it kind of hard to watch at times because you want to pull for them. They're the hometown teams. They have the potential of being really, really good, and they just have been mediocre this year.
Well, that's the thing. You talked on Acuna coming back. I think it was the first pitch he saw in his first at bat. He sent it over the fence for a home run. That's just something that Acuna does, and that's why he is so beloved in Atlanta. All the accolades, all the fame and attention he gets, it's all warranted. He's truly the brightest shining star in Atlanta, and we love him for it. But the Braves are struggling. I mean, they have climbed their way up to third in the division after being at the bottom, to start the season. We talked about that for a while. They are 3-7 in their last 10, about to add another loss to their record. They're already 9 games back from the Phillies, who have a 36-21 record. Right behind them is the Mets at 35-22. So Braves aren't out of it. I mean, Chris called his shot. He said that the Braves are going to be the first team to start. Was it 0-7 and make the playoffs? Certainly really early on in the season to rule them out. But Chris, just kind of as the season goes on and we get further and further along, do you find like that your hope is still intact? Do you feel like it's maybe weakening a little bit, or kind of how do you feel about the Braves as it goes on?
It's a long season. I still think it could. Every time I look at my phone, they've won one, they've lost one, they've won one, they've lost one. I can't get a gauge on it right now. I will say I'm looking at the standings here. Detroit, 37-20 at the moment. Pretty impressive. Maybe people saw this coming. I'm kind of a casual baseball fan. I really didn't know they were that good. But good on them for kind of being the best record I'm seeing out of the entire league.
Yeah.
I think
you're
so.
right, because Yankees are 35-20. Tigers 37-20, so obviously they've played a couple more games to kind of have that edge. But I know Yankees have played really good. Dodgers leading their division, 34-22 is their record. If maybe they didn't play the Padres as much as they do, they would have a little bit better of a record because San Diego's a really good team this year as well. Mm-hmm. But I admittedly, Don and I had this conversation. In addition to being a Giants fan, he's also a Yankees fan. And he and I kind of had this conversation. He was talking about how much fun baseball season is. And I was like, well, yeah, when you have one of those high bankroll teams like the Yankees and you can buy your wins and buy your championships, I'm sure it is fun. But for somebody who's not a fan of the Dodgers or the Yankees, I don't find baseball season to be enjoyable right now at all. Obviously, I pull for the Braves. I want them to do well, but I can't even watch most Atlanta games. They're blacked out consistently on Hulu, which is what we have as a provider of cable. And It's just when you can't even watch your own home team games, that takes the fun out of it. But when you see these other teams just do such manipulative, actions as far as being able to sign players that they shouldn't be able to afford, the luxury tax. We've gotten into all this so many times before. I don't need to go into it again, but I will follow baseball season from afar. You're not going to see me invested into it until something crazy happens. Like you said, if you have a worst to first type season for the Braves, I'll do what I can to tune in at that point. But unless they make the postseason, I don't see myself watching too many baseball games this season.
Yeah, I'm like you. I kind of turn it on if I see them on TV, I'll turn it on. I'm my provider, same way. I use YouTube TV. Games are blacked out 90% of the time. Every once in a while, they'll come on ESPN or one of the other networks that I can pick them up and watch them. But I'm like you. I kind of, if I'm scrolling through and I see a baseball game on, I might click it on, but most of the time I'm just kind of watching the stats and, seeing who's hot, who's not kind of thing until we get closer to September, October when stuff actually matters. And this all goes back to what I mentioned last time. These things are too long. They're boring. I'm so over basketball. I'll be over come August. I'll really be over baseball because I'm going to be in football mode. I think, that's one of the most enjoyable things about football is you do have that extended off period, and it's not as long and grueling of a season. Yes, they play on Thursday and they play on Monday and they play on Sunday, and there's a lot of games to watch, but you're not watching the same teams play 7 times in a row. That to me, that gets old. So these seasons are too long. I've said it in the past. I'm not going to harp on it too much, but I'm just, let's cut down some of these other sports.
Yeah, not to brag, I do get all the games on FanDuel, which used to be Bally's. Get all the Hawks games too, for that matter. But no, I do just find myself checking the score as it comes up on my phone. That's a lot easier than sitting through a sport that I don't personally enjoy on the level of a lot of you out there. Yeah, there's a lot of you that really love baseball, and I'm just not. I need more action, and I know some of you people in other countries will be like, "Well, you claim to love football, and there's not any action there." Shut up. It's the action that is there. It's not the same
Yeah,
because
I do think they. I do
all
think
the
they.
action there might be a foul ball. Come on.
Well, I do think they've helped. Adding the basically the shot clock on
Yes.
for pitchers. They have sped up the game of baseball, but it's always going to be with baseball. It's always going to be more enjoyable at the stadium. I've said this in the past as well. It's a lot of fun. Just go to your local, single A, double A, triple A team. You get the same kind of big league experience and you see the players of the future, and it's a great time. Doesn't cost a ton of money to go see. I so enjoy going and watching those baseball games than turning it on the TV and watch 2 teams I care absolutely nothing about, and it's non entertainment to me, and
Yeah,
9 times out of 10 I'm gonna skip over it.
We talked about it with football. There's a lot of times where, you can turn on a Wednesday or Thursday night and there might be a college game. It might be Akron versus Toledo. And I'm sorry if I always use those teams as my go-to example of being uninteresting programs, but it's still football. I'm still going to watch it. And I just don't have the same love with other sports. I'm not going to, if the Padres are playing the Orioles and I'm like, ooh, baseball, I'm not turning it on. I just don't have that same feeling or fanship. And if you do, I'm not hating on baseball. It's just a personal preference. But like for me right now, I'm still watching football because the UFL is going on. We've got the conference championships coming up. My Birmingham Stallions have managed to make their conference championship. They're playing against the Michigan Panthers. I think the Battle Hawks of St. Louis, I think, are the favorites to win the other one. They're playing the DC Defenders. I mean, it's just I'm pulling for Birmingham. I'm finding ways to watch football even in the off season. OTAs are going on right now. Before long, we'll have training camp, and then it's preseason. I just find myself always getting excited for that next step of football, and I don't have it on that. Chris and I are talking about Money in the Bank, the next big wrestling event. The UFC has a couple of big events coming up. Sugar Sean O'Malley has a rematch for the title that he lost. So, I mean, that's going to be an interesting fight coming up soon. I just have so many other things in the world of sports that I get excited to watch. And even right now, with the Hawks long since eliminated from contention, I'm still watching a basketball game pretty much every night. I find myself watching these playoff games and being invested in them. I'm turning them on 30, 40 minutes before the game even starts to have the pre-show on, while I'm eating dinner or something like that. And I'm staying up till midnight to watch the entirety of the game. And there's been some crazy endings in these series, Chris. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. We have had overtime games. We've had stuff come to the final seconds. Not too many blowouts, but we've had fair shares of dominating performances as well, both on a team basis and an individual player basis.
Yeah.
I just don't get that from baseball, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Going back to football, since that seems to be our favorite thing, have you seen any crazy things come out of OTA? Good players, maybe people that were supposed to be good are not doing so hot in OTAs, that kind of stuff.
This is kind of like Puff P, season. Chris can kind of tell you about this. The draft is come and gone. They're on your team now, at least until you make your cuts. It doesn't really do anybody any good to say, we screwed up, we drafted the wrong player, this guy sucks, and we should have drafted this guy instead. I have seen some incredible, highlight clips. I know Ted McMillan, Chris will appreciate, has done really well in Carolina. They're talking about how much, quarterback chemistry and a relationship between quarterback and receiver matters to Ted McMillan. It's why he stayed at Arizona to play with the same quarterback that he had in high school, because he liked that relationship. He wanted to keep that bond going, as opposed to transferring to another school, making more money, obviously being in contention for championships and stuff like that. So he's been one. I think the only one that I have seen that was negative in a way was there was a running back for the Chicago Bears. I think he was a 6th or 7th round pick out of Rutgers. His name is Kyle Monangai. He currently sits 4th string on the depth chart. And there's been talk of who's going to be that other guy to step up alongside DeAndre Swift, because they have Roshan Johnson there, and Ben Johnson, new head coach. Obviously, he's known for being the offensive coordinator in Detroit the last few seasons, having that thunder and lightning combination of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Is he going to try to use the same 2-back system, and who's going to be that second back alongside DeAndre Swift? If you assume Swift is going to be the Jahmyr Gibbs, who is the David Montgomery? A lot of people said Monangai could be that guy. Well, there was a clip of their 4 running backs that are going through a bag drill. It's just footwork stuff, very simple. And the coach that was leading them through the drill started berating Monangai, saying, "You move like an old-ass man." So obviously you draft a running back, you bring him in. A lot of people have hopes of him being like a 1B or even a second stringer, and he's getting called out by his coaches for moving slow and having terrible footwork. Obviously, one drill very early on in OTAs is not going to be the end-all be-all. It doesn't mean that he's going to be cut or anything like that, but I bring that up to say that if that's the worst that you hear about this time of year, you shouldn't be looking for too much negative stuff. It's all about getting guys healthy, learning playbooks for your new guys and stuff like this. This is your first semblance of free agents and rookies coming in and actually being able to be with the team and learn the system that they're going to be in. So it's mostly puff pieces at this point, but I don't know if Chris has seen anything different than what I have.
And I think
the
biggest thing that I've seen and love to hear is how good the Atlanta's Falcons defense has picked up with the offseason, players that they picked up, veterans, to their rookies, Pierce and how much they're going to bring a big impact to Atlanta. We've all said our defense has been trash forever. And, really can't even go back to when we had that big dominating force. We've had a couple of glimmers of hope, but supposedly this year is Atlanta's defense is going to be kind of on point. So really, really looking forward to seeing that and being a fan for that. But yeah, I'm like you. I think everything's just been kind of fluff and oh, they're the greatest. And I think some of the negative stuff that I heard was Kyle Pitts. Obviously that trade rumor is still going around. You've got the Kirk Cousins. Whatever you want to call that. With he's going to be traded here. No, he's not going to be traded. He's going to be a backup. He's sitting around. He's who knows? I know he hasn't participated in OTAs, which is not unheard of. I mean, I get it. If I was, a backup quarterback and just got a ton of money, I'd be sitting on the couch too. So, do you have thoughts on that, Chris?
No, I had also just heard that Kirk had not showed up to anything, and someone else too, if I'm not mistaken. I think in New England, someone has not showed up to practice yet. A receiver, I can't remember who it was, but
I think it was Stephon Diggs.
Yes.
But Diggs has been hurt. I mean, nobody expected him to be on the field, but a lot of people still want you to show up and be around the team.
Sure.
Because there's a certain level of chemistry that's built on camaraderie, not just on-field reps that he can't really do right now. Obviously, he got hurt last year. They don't expect him to be ready at the start of the year, but I think current timeline says he could be ready week 4, week 5. So not a huge delay, as far as the start of the season goes. But this is a new team for him. This is a new quarterback. He needs to be learning the offense. He needs to be learning his teammates. It would be very good if Stephon Diggs was there and present with the team and not on the boat with fat girls with mysterious pink substances, if you've seen that video going around.
I've heard of it.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, Kirk Cousins and Kyle Pitts are kind of the two big names in Atlanta. Will either one of them be on the opening day roster for Atlanta? That kind of remains to be seen. Pitts is drawing a lot of trade interest from multiple teams right now. And then obviously all eyes are still on the Pittsburgh Steelers and their quarterback situation. Do we think Rodgers signs there? If they get a definitive answer from him, no, is he retiring, that sort of thing, do they then make the move for Kirk Cousins? Because that's still very much in the possibility that Atlanta deals him. And then at that point, what does Atlanta do as far as the backup quarterback goes? Because they've said that they're going to do what's best for the team. If that means keeping Kirk Cousins and paying him millions of dollars to be the backup, that's what they're going to do. Obviously, Michael Penix has looked really good at OTAs. His big arm has been on display. A lot of highlights, a lot of deep shots that he takes. It just looks like he's throwing on a rope. It's something that gets Atlanta fans excited. But there's other pieces of that offense that are going to possibly impact what our offense looks like this year. So it's a really good thing that the defense is showing up and showing out early, because we might be relying on them more than we have, even dating back to, Matt Ryan's tenure in Atlanta, where our offense had to score 40-plus points or we weren't going to win anything because our defense was going to give it. No lead was safe in Atlanta. Maybe we're seeing a little bit of a tide turn towards a defensive powerhouse here. And that would be refreshing to see, I think.
Oh, 100%.
I did see one other negative thing, just because you asked. Bashal Tutin was a surprise pick for the Jaguars, third string running back currently behind ETN and Bigsby. And he was somebody that struggled with ball security throughout college. Very fast, very explosive. Not take anything away from that. But it doesn't matter how fast you are if you're putting the ball on the ground. It's one of the quickest ways to get in the doghouse and to find yourself being carried out of an offense quickly. And his very first live rep in the Jaguars OTAs, he fumbled the ball. And one thing that I find that's interesting about this is, one isolated rep isn't a good thing, but what we're learning about is Liam Cohen as a head coach. He is a first-time head coach, obviously coming over from the Buccaneers, taking over as the new head coach of the Jaguars. Somebody asked him about Bashal Tutin and how he looked in practice, and the first words out of his mouth was, first live rep, he fumbled. That's something that's got to be cleared up. He's not afraid to call out his players when they have shortcomings, and I actually like and appreciate that. So that is another negative that I thought about, kind of came to me. But other than that, like I said, all the hype around Atlanta, the defense and stuff like that, the intrigue about the possible trades, it's cool to see. I'm waiting for those big dominoes to fall.
And do you see going back to Pittsburgh, I know June 1st is a big date do you see that being the day they drop Aaron Rodgers, he signed, he's this or whatever, or is that a possible trade for Kirk Cousins because he hasn't signed? Is that the date that Pittsburgh starts worrying?
Well, I think training camp is really their deadline for getting the quarterback situation figured out, and they've got to know going into camp what their options are. They might also have a very close eye on the Cleveland situation. If you've paid any attention to that, they've got 4 quarterbacks right now with the rookies, Sanders and Gabriel, and then they traded for Kenny Pickett and they signed Joe Flacco. And so they announced that Dylan Gabriel and Kenny Pickett were going to be splitting first team reps, and that Joe Flacco and Shedeur Sanders were going to be battling for 3 and 4 on the depth chart. I don't expect them to carry all 4 of those quarterbacks. So if Joe Flacco has already looked at being third string at best, is he somebody that they try to cut bait with or send off to Pittsburgh for a 7th round pick or, just to get something? Is Kirk Cousins the guy there? That sort of thing. When you talk about June 1st, you're really talking about existing contracts. It's something that they use to manipulate the cap. You can designate a June 1st trade or a June 1st cut because it rolls over to the next year, the money side of things. It's not really something that you see as far as signing free agents, like you're talking about bringing in Aaron Rodgers, unless they have money coming off the books that they need to clear before they can sign Aaron Rodgers. That would be the only thing that really impacts it. They traded George Pickens to Dallas, and so will they have money that comes off the books June 1st after that move that now clears the way for Aaron Rodgers to come in? Yeah. That's the only way that I could really see it. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is waiting on June 1st for anything. I think Aaron Rodgers is just waiting for his relevancy to dry up, and he's stretching this out as long as he can to keep people bringing his name up. And I think once people give up on him in Pittsburgh, I think that's when you see the Kirk Cousins move. But we'll have to see.
Well, I think that's what I was alluding to is Pittsburgh waiting to clear money on that June 1st to be able to sign, because obviously Aaron Rodgers is not going to come cheap. Is that what it's not really Aaron Rodgers holding out on Pittsburgh as much as Pittsburgh said, hey, we like you, we want you, but can you wait till June 1st so we can clear up some money?
It certainly wouldn't be the first time that a team has had a deal in place that they wait to announce. So, it's certainly possible, and the way that they've handled this offseason would certainly lend to that thought process of saying, hey, if they didn't know who their quarterback was going to be, they would have made a move before now.
Sure.
Tomlin being the seasoned coach that he is, I'd like to think that he wouldn't string the team along unnecessarily. I think he knows that they need to get that figured out sooner rather than later. And I don't think Mason Rudolph is the guy. It's not looking great right now, but I think that something's going to change in Pittsburgh. So June 1st is a very short wait away. So maybe we'll get that news very soon.
A couple of days.
Yeah, I'm just not, to answer your question, I'm just not familiar enough with the cap and their cap situation to know if that is something that they're waiting on. I don't know if they just don't have the money off the books right now to be able to make that transaction, and if they are expecting money to come off the books on June 1st to make it more possible. I'm just not that familiar with it.
Yeah, and nor do I. And but I have seen a lot of videos out there, about the Aaron Rodgers deal. Why hasn't he signed one? And that's what makes sense in my head, is they're just trying to get their money right, which you got to respect that.
Yeah, sure. Your mistake is thinking that sense is going to apply to an Aaron Rodgers free agency situation. Well, Chris, did you have anything else this week, or does that kind of cover everything?
Do I want to bring this up? So this Belichick and his girlfriend is not a new thing, but I wanted time to think about it.
She is kind of a new thing in that she's like a 45-year newer thing. Than
49-year age difference. So they want to say that love is blind and love is ageless and timeless and all that stuff. And I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. And I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But that's just not what's going on here. This is not true love. And I guess I wanted to talk myself into seeing both sides. But when you listen to anyone talk about it, there's not two sides. There's one side. She, what is it? She's 24 years old. That's a bit young for me. Um, Bill Belichick is not like a good looking old guy either. He's not like George Clooney or anything. He's a rich ball coach. And I mean, good on him for doing what he's doing. I take that back. It's a bit weird. Uh, but there's just in no way, in no world, is there actually true love here. This is completely a gold digger situation. And I wanted to have an argument against it, or please, one of you give me an argument against it. It just doesn't make sense. And I feel like someone that cares about him, and he's got a lot of former players that do, should get in his head or should say something.
I don't know.
Like,
You look at Hugh Hefner. He did it for years, before he passed away. It's happened over time. I'm not saying she's not a gold digger. I don't know. I don't know her.
I
I
don't
don't
know her.
know him. So I don't want to say one way or the other, but you ha there's been things in the past. What was that one? She died as well. Was married to that old dude. I believe her name was Anna Nicole Smith or something like that. She was a
Yeah,
stripper
that's right.
and she married some rich billionaire dude, but she like really loved him. I don't know. It was like
Can we prove
crazy,
that?
but no, because she didn't get any of his money. I don't think. She was
Okay.
already. She had done like a TV show, so she had her own money, but I don't know that she got any of his money. So it's not. She just like loved the old dude. I mean,
Well,
hey, if it works for him, it works for him. I can't say I'm not going to judge one way or the other. I hope she's doing it for the right reasons and not just trying to get in his bank account. But
I
you
don't
know,
know
it
too
looks
much.
funny.
I don't know too much about her or anything. So forgive me, people, for going off of just assumptions here, but I'm just looking through pictures. She's got the look. Like she looks like she's very materialistic and she doesn't love football or anything like that. I think she's claimed to or something like that. But she's just got the look of an Instagram model type of thing. And I think that may be her profession. But that doesn't help your case when you kind of look like you just want that life and you've wanted to find someone that could give you that life. And I don't blame her. If I had the means to go out and get some kind of great life like that, I might try to do it too. But I just don't believe. I'm not giving the benefit of the doubt here. I've thought about it for as long as it's happened, and I don't see it.
Well, to me, it's one of those things where you don't know the intentions behind Bill Belichick, even if you feel like you know the intentions behind her. I'm
Right.
not willing to call this a parasitic, one-sided thing, because if you think that Bill Belichick is spending all this money on her and he's not getting something out of it that makes him happy, I think you're mistaken there. I
Yep.
think we see what makes her happy, and it's his bank account. And if you pull up her Instagram, she's a former cheerleader.
Mhm.
She's not hard on the eyes at all. I think we see what is making him happy. And
Yeah, I think we see that.
if that is the relationship that they're both okay with, they're both adults,
Yep.
obviously from very different generations. Who am I to judge? That Bill Belichick can spend his money and his time how he wants. I feel like he's earned that at this stage of life. I don't think he's looking for somebody to settle down with. I don't think he's looking for marriage. I don't think he's
Right.
trying to find a wife out of this. So if she is a gold digger, so be it. If that's what he's okay with, it's fine.
Yeah.
It is what
I
it
guess I
is.
just I
To me, it's almost like I guess to put it in our perspective, it would be really hard to. But if I said, "Hey, Chris, would you like to enter into a relationship with Roseanne because she's extremely wealthy?"
right.
You would have to make that decision of, is that money worth what I'm going to have to do to tap into the lifestyle that comes with it? I like to think that you would say no. She obviously does not have that same problem. So good on her for getting access to a lifestyle she wouldn't have otherwise.
I guess I just don't want it to end badly, and I'd like to be proven wrong. That's all.
Yeah, I just think that it's all maybe relative. because what is a bad ending to you? Is it that they break up in the middle of the season and he's so distraught that UNC loses a couple of games that they should have won? Like, you're not going to be able to tarnish Bill Belichick's legacy as a coach at this point.
No, I guess not.
And I just don't know that he's taking this as a serious relationship. I think that he's getting what he wants, she's getting what she wants, and everybody should leave them alone about it. Obviously, UNC has found some problems with her presence, and that's why she's been banned from all of their facilities, which is another thing that wasn't mentioned before.
Right.
But I feel like he's somebody that probably doesn't want her hanging around the office anyway, because when he's in work mode, and obviously we've only seen this during the kind of football off season, but I think when the season comes around, it might even become clear that he was the one that wanted her barred from the facilities to begin with, because when he's there, he's focusing on coaching. That is his thing. He's very good at what he does. He's very meticulous. We've seen that over the course of his very long, successful career in New England. So, I mean, let them have their fun.
I agree.
Supposed to.
I don't feel like that changed your mind at all, but
No, I don't believe that it's genuine, and a lot of other people don't either. I'm not alone in this camp. But
no.
anyway, something I almost touched on last time, and maybe we're running a little long here, so I'll just be brief on this. Softball's wrapping up here. I got some scores in front of me. One of them was Tennessee eliminating Florida 11-3. That shouldn't happen in when you're with the last few teams, and I don't know why it keeps happening in women's sports, especially. We talked about the Thunder blowing out the Timberwolves a few times. Well, the Timberwolves also won a game, and they also lost a game by 3, and I think that was on free throws mostly. When we are in the final, I want to say 8. Yeah, I think it's at the World Series. There shouldn't be 11-3 games called after 5 innings. And I haven't checked over on baseball, but I don't know. Can the NIL maybe help spread out the women's talent to where we don't see 11-3 blowouts? Or you're going to see the ladies in every sport conforming to 1 or 2 or 3 programs, and those 3 programs blowing out all the rest of the 200.
Well, I think it's kind of one of those things that it's still such a shallow league, I guess, if you want to call it, a platform of sports, that women's college softball is the pinnacle of that sport. There's not a pro league that you can go to. There's no reason to have parity. There's no reason to not try to do anything that you can to win championships, because after that, your career is over. You don't have anything else to go to afterwards. So there's not a matter of trying to get more money elsewhere. I mean, these girls are competitors. They want to win. I actually did watch a fair bit of softball with the tournaments and all, like the SEC tournament going on when I was in Miramar Beach last weekend. And this doesn't really answer your question, but one thing I wanted to touch on that I found very strange, I watched 3 days worth of Tennessee Lady Vols softball. They had the same pitcher all 3 games.
Yeah.
Carlin Pickens, if you've not heard of her, she's only a junior. She has the current record for fastest fastest pitch in softball history at 79.4 miles per hour. She broke her own previous record, which I think was 78.2 miles per hour. So she's got a cannon. I watched her pitch the second game. She threw like 120 pitches, pitched the complete game, never came out. She had pitched the day before, comes back the next day and pitches again. How many times can you expect a girl to throw the ball like that and her arm not fall off? I mean, I get she's their best player. I get that you do everything that you can to win. But if she's doing that in the semifinals of the SEC tournament, how far do you expect her to hold up when you get deeper into these championship series? I just never seen anything like that. I mean, Brian, you've watched baseball for a long time. You know that pro teams have like 5 and 6 pitchers on a rotation, and it's to preserve those arms. This girl's throwing 120 pitches a game, and she's pitching 3 days in a row. Have you seen anything like that at all? Because it was just baffling to me.
Well, you get it. I haven't had a lot of exposure to women's softball. I do have a very good friend of mine. His daughter is playing at the collegiate level. Really, really good softball player from around here. And you know, I know the motion is different between a men's fastball versus a soft fastball from a softball player. It's coming from underneath versus coming from overhead, so it's not as harsh, I don't think, on the elbow and the shoulder, but it is. That's a lot of games, a lot of pitches. You know, I don't know the talent level. Maybe it's not there. Maybe these girls are just tough and can handle pitching like that for 3 days. I would love to be able, and I guess any coach would love to be able to spread the wealth. You'd love to have 3 or 4 girls on your team that could throw over 100 miles an hour. But is it like the girls basketball? I know we talked about it with the um, when the Sweet 16 was going on, the March Madness, you just have some girls that are special. Caitlin Clark, we talked about it earlier today. We're waiting on that Titan. Is there just not the Titans out there? I don't know. Again, I'm not as connected to that sport. Maybe I can get Chloe to come on here and do an interview with us. That would be a lot of fun because she is a current collegiate player, and maybe she can't come on because she is a current collegiate player. But I'll talk to her parents and see. Maybe I can get my friend Amy, who coached women's softball. Maybe we can get somebody on there that could spread some more light and why you don't see why do you see a player pitching 3 and 4 games in a row, and why does that not blow out their arm like you would?
Yeah, I mean, just to me, it's kind of one of those things like, okay, she's your best player. The advantage of having her on the mound is apparent because if you've got a girl that can throw 80 miles an hour and nobody else can, obviously you want her out there. But it's also a huge indictment to the rest of that bullpen when you say, nope, we're just going to keep her out there all game long as we can, as many days in a row as we can, and bump every other pitcher on this team. We don't need them. We've got Pickens. It's just kind of crazy to me to think about it. And I would love to get some information from somebody a little bit more familiar with the sport because I just couldn't make sense of that. I get that she's a dominant athlete. Maybe it's just kind of one of those, like Chris has seen this, players want to play. They want to be out there. They don't want to be taken off the bench. They want to try to play through everything. And maybe she's doing it at a detriment to herself, overworking her. I just don't see how that could possibly be healthy in any kind of way to have that stress on her body so much in such a short amount of time.
That's going to be a coaching decision. That's not going to be a player decision. I know we've seen it with quarterbacks and in the football, them wanting to go back out there. But honestly, that's especially at a collegiate level, that's going to be a coach's decision to put her out there, not a player decision.
Well, and it's got to be.
My coach would have laughed at me if if he'd have set me on the bench for whatever, and I go, "Hey, coach, you're gonna put me back in." He'd have told me to go shut up and sit down. That's just I don't see that being any different in any other kind of sport. Other than like maybe an individual sport like golf, like tennis, something like that, where you don't have a choice. You're the only one. But just in a team atmosphere, I don't think that's a player call.
Yeah, but I mean, you mentioned it being a collegiate level and not a pro level, but kind of as I touched on before, this really is the pro level because it doesn't get any higher than this. They are at the pinnacle of the sport. It doesn't go anywhere from here. So I don't know if that plays a role or not, but I'm kind of with you in that it has to be a coach's decision. And obviously they don't see a problem with it, even if it means her arm falls off as a result, because they are relying on her to carry the team.
Hey, 11-3, they're one step closer to the national championship right now. So,
yeah, I mean, obviously the proof is in the pudding, as they say, and the ends justify the means. If they walk away with the title, she can always take an ice bath later.
Sure.
There you go.
But I think that's all we really had this week. If anybody's still with us, we appreciate you staying tuned. Brian, unless you had anything else for us.
Well, I did. We forgot to touch on one thing, and it's a sad note. And I hate ending on a sad note, so we may want to change it just after this, just so we can end on something happier. But the Colts lost their owner. Was it this past week or week before last?
Yeah, Jim Irsay.
Yeah. So sad news coming out of Indianapolis. We hate to see that, and we want to obviously send our condolences to their family, and that's where their heart's at, and that's where it should be. So hate to hear that, but definitely if y'all want to give us a little happier note to end off of.
Well, perk up, Indy, because win Saturday in basketball, and you're going to the NBA Finals. Yes, you'll be okay. I've also, I've heard that guy lived pretty fast and hard, and this was not really a surprise to anyone. But yeah, Indy, in the sports world at least, you can get yourself to a finals, and that's something I'd love to say for my own team, that we've at least been to a finals, and we haven't. So
yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing. It's like, the Colts owner dies, Caitlin Clark gets injured. Yeah. Indy fans are in shambles if it wasn't for the Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton being absolute superhuman in this series at times. So they bounce back and win one in Indy to go to the finals. I think all will be just fine in Indianapolis. I don't want to say anything too disrespectful. You obviously want to separate the person from the position. Some owners are better than others. I do believe in addition by subtraction. I don't think the Colts are going to be hurt by this, but that's not to take away from the fact that this was still a man. He still had a family. He still had friends and people that cared about him. And so obviously I hate for all of those people that were personally affected by his loss, because obviously that's the side of things that you don't want to see. But from a sports perspective, just as respectfully as I can say such a disrespectful thing, it's not a huge loss to the football world. So Indy is going to be just fine, and Caitlin Clark we trust.
All right. We out of here?
Yep. That'll piss some people off if that turns into a